Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to deconstruct a really fascinating case study in discipline. It's pulled right from day one of a trader's public 20-day challenge. And it's a super raw look at what happens when a really strict plan crashes into the chaotic reality of the market.
So let's just start with a question that I think gets right to the heart of what we're looking at today. Is a disciplined loss actually better than an undisciplined win? When your goal isn't just profit, but pure self-discipline, how do you even measure what success looks like? Okay, let's dive into this.
All right, so the trader we're focusing on is just getting back in the game after taking a break. But he's not just, dipping his toes in. No, he has put himself out there with a public 20-day self-discipline challenge. The whole point is to master a brand new strategy.
And the main mission here, this is super important. It's not about making a ton of money. It's really about testing his own ability to follow a strict, predefined set of rules no matter what the market is doing. And we get a front row seat to see exactly how his very first day plays out.
Okay, so before we jump into the live trades, we got to understand the playbook, right? What is the specific strategy he's using? And maybe even more importantly, what are the rules of the game that he's set for himself?
So his core method is what's called a supply and demand strategy. Really, all this means is he's trying to find specific zones on a price chart where there was a big imbalance in the past. The idea is, if the price gets back to that zone, you can expect another big wave of buying or selling to kick in. And that's exactly where he's looking to make his move.
But just finding one of those zones? That's not the whole story. He has a very specific, totally non-negotiable trigger for when he actually enters a trade. He calls it the first pullback. And this little detail is the key to his entire plan.
So what in the world is a pullback? Well, think of it like the market just taking a quick breath. It's a short, temporary move against whatever the main trend is. For this trader, waiting for that specific little pause is the ultimate test of his patience and his discipline. He will not click the button without it.
And here they are, his hard and fast rules. These are not just guidelines. This is like his psychological fortress. You can see he's using a tiny $10 account, probably to keep the emotional stakes low, and a max loss of just $2 a day to stop things from spiraling. But the most important rule, the one this entire challenge really hinges on, is right there. He has to stop for the day after 2 losses. No ifs, ands, or buts.
He's also really specific about his tools. He actually made a conscious switch away from his old platform, IQ option, to a new one called Pocket option. And why'd he do that? Because it gives him a longer purchase time and has better tools for marking up his charts, which are both essential for his supply and demand strategy. And he's trading in a very specific environment, the OTC, or over-the-counter market. He chose this on purpose because it tends to offer better payouts and, this is critical, it supports the 1-minute expirations he needs for the super fast-paced 5-second chart style that his strategy is built around.
Okay, the plan is set. The rules are crystal clear. Let's get into the live session and see how this carefully built framework holds up under the intense pressure of a real moving market. And boom! Right away, we get some tension. He spots a perfect setup, but the market moves just a little too fast. He hesitates, and you can just hear the frustration in his voice as he says, I think we've missed this opportunity. It is too late. The discipline test has already started. But he shakes it off, finds another entry, and this time he follows his plan perfectly. He waits for that crucial first pullback, exactly like his rules say. He takes the trade, and it's a loss. Not exactly the start he wanted, but it was a perfectly disciplined trade. But he doesn't let that first loss rattle him. He sticks to the process, finds another setup that checks all his boxes, and this time it's a solid win. So let's break down why he felt so sure about this one.
What he spotted was a classic chart pattern called the double top. Now, this is a pretty well-known pattern where the price tries to hit a high point twice, but fails both times. It's usually a pretty strong signal that the price might be about to reverse and head down.
And this quote just illustrates his whole philosophy perfectly. His confidence wasn't some random gut feeling. It was based on seeing a specific, identifiable pattern that fit right into his strategy. That double top was all the confirmation he needed. So now we get to the third trade, and let me tell you, this is where his discipline is really, truly tested. He finds a great-looking supply zone, but that critical pullback he needs to enter, it just won't happen. The market is just dangling this opportunity in front of him, but not giving him his signal.
And you can just feel the frustration building. He's talking to himself, saying, "This guy is not ready to pull back, man."
But even in that moment of frustration, he reminds himself of the rule. It is very, very important to wait for a pullback before we enter the trade. He's actively fighting that impulse to just jump in.
After a long, patient wait, he finally gets the pullback signal he was looking for, and he takes the trade. And the result? It's a loss. And this brings us to the day's final score.
So after all that waiting, the frustration, the win, and the 2 losses, what was the actual objective outcome of day 1 of this discipline challenge?
Well, if you look at the log, the day was made up of 3 trades. A loss right out of the gate, followed by a nice win, and then that final, frustrating loss.
So here's the most crucial point of the whole day. That 3rd trade was his 2nd loss, and that immediately triggered his most important rule, the exit plan. According to his own system, his trading day was now over. He had to walk away.
And what about the money? What was the financial damage? Well, after all of that, the final result on his balance sheet for the day was a net loss of exactly $1. In the world of trading, that's basically nothing.
And this brings us right back to where we started. On paper, on the balance sheet, day 1 was a loss, no question. But he followed his rules. He waited for his signal, even when it was painful. And most importantly, he stopped trading the second his exit plan kicked in, which prevented any more potential losses. So in a challenge that is designed specifically to test self-discipline, you have to ask, was this day actually a success?